Hi, my name is Rakesh Piran. I am currently on board the USS Theodore Roosevelt making this video. I am enrolled at Vincent's University and I'm taking a class, Philosophy 313. I've reviewed the Brain on Trial videos, two-part video, first and second video. Each are approximately an hour long. So what I've done, I've summarized each individual videos separately. So video one, I summarized the video and what I think, and then I provide my personal thoughts. Same as the second video, I summarize the video and then at the end I provide my personal thoughts. So I'm going to start with video one and I'm going to roll into video two afterwards. So kicking off with video one. The first video provided information on the emerging and controversial role of neuroscience and brain science in the courtroom, raising important questions about justice, privacy, and the future of legal proceedings. The discussions highlight how technology like functional MRI and brain scans can potentially reveal what a person is thinking, remembering, or feeling, which could revolutionize the way trials are conducted. Scientists are developing methods to decode memories, recognize faces, or even determine whether a person recognized a crime scene, all by analyzing brain activity. The advancement suggests that in the future a court might be able to gather evidence directly from the brain, potentially confirming or contradicting eyewitness testimonies or defendant claims. However, the science is still in its early stage and often produces only partial or fuzzy results, and not yet reliable enough for legal standards. Experts caution that such evidence might be misinterpreted or overestimated, especially given the complex of individual nature of brain patterns. Ethical and legal concerns are also prominent, particularly regarding the Fifth Amendment, which protects against self-incrimination. As brain scanning techniques improve, the risk grows that authorities could use them to read thoughts without consent, raising important questions about privacy and individual rights. The issue of racial bias is also addressed, illustrating how implicit biases can be measured through brain response and how these biases might influence judicial decisions. The importance of understanding whether harm are intentional or accidental is emphasized by neuroscience pinpointing specific brain region involving in moral judgment, such as the temporal junction. The evidence suggests that people's brain patterns vary significantly, and these differences can influence moral and legal judgment, and highlighting how important it is to recognize individual variability. Despite all these science advancements, the current legal system relies heavily on traditional evidence like eyewitness testimony and video footage. While future technologies may be important for more accurate justice, they also pose risks of misuse and ethical dilemmas. The information portrayed in the video where neuroscience could be important is understanding human behavior and legal responsibility, but it also underscored the importance of caution and careful consideration of the implications. So that there, all I just read, that's what I summarized the video as. That's video one. And rolling into my thoughts on video one, this is my personal thoughts on the video. So I believe the information about neuroscience in the courtroom is important because it shows how much science is advancing and how these developments could change justice forever. But I also think it's important to be careful because the science isn't perfect yet. Relying too much on brain scanning or decoding thoughts might lead to mistakes or unfair judgments, especially since brain patterns can be different from person to person. It's important to remember that technology should be a tool to help, not replace traditional evidence like eyewitness accounts or video footage. I also think that privacy concerns are very important for the idea that some could read your thoughts without your knowledge or is concerning. We need to protect individual rights and ensure that new science is used ethically. The discussion about bias and moral judgment remind me of how complex human behavior is and how important it is to understand that science may not always be able to give clear-cut answers. Overall, I think the science can be important for future of justice, but it is important that we don't rush into using it without considering the risks and ethical questions. We need to ensure that these tools are used responsibly and that they serve justice rather than undermine it. So that's my thought on the first video, and I'm rolling into the second video. Like I mentioned, the summary of the video, like how I summarize it, and then my personal thoughts on the video. So I'm going to kick that off here. Video 2. The second video provides information and explore the complicated relationship between neuroscience and justice system, and they understand juvenile and adult behavior. It highlights how recent scientific advances, especially brain scan and detail, could be on adolescent brain development, are beginning to influence legal decisions, particularly in sentencing and assessing culpability. The discussion emphasized that the teen brain is still developing, especially in areas responsible for impulse control, decision making, emotional regulation. These developments are important because they suggest that young people like Jimmy Moran, who committed a crime, may not have fully matured mentally and emotionally, which can impact their responsibility and the kind of punishment they deserve. The information also points out that the presence of peers significantly affects adolescent brain activity, making risk behavior more likely, and the emotional arousal can interfere with judgment. Experts argue that understanding these brain differences could inform how the legal system treats juveniles, advocating for a more compassionate and tailored approach rather than harsh retributive punishment. Brain science is also being used to understand how judge and jury make decisions, revealing that their emotional and perceptions of intent are important factors. The insights are very important because they suggest that the justice should not only be used about punishment but also about helping people grow and change. They remind us that human behavior is complex and deeply influenced by brain development, making it important to rethink traditional ideas and responsibility and fairness in the legal process. I believe that this information is important about neuroscience, and the law is very important because it shows how much we are now learning about how the human brain works and how it influences behavior. Sorry about that, someone just walked into the door. So carrying on, it is clear that the brain is not fully developed until a person is much older than 18, which makes it very important for the justice system to rethink carefully about how it treats young offenders. It is important that the ID and emotional and development factor play a big role in decision making because it reminds us that people are not always fully responsible for their actions, especially when the brain are still maturing. And I also think it's very important because these scientific insights can help create a much fairer and compassionate justice system, one that considers the person's age and mental state. It is also important to realize that punishment could also serve more than just punishment. It could help prevent people grow and learn from their mistakes. I believe this information is very important because it encourages us to think differently about justice, responsibility, and how we can better understand human behavior to create a society that it's fair and more understanding of each person's unique situation. It's important that we use science to guide us towards solutions that are fair and humane, especially with dealing with young people. So that's my thought. Sorry for the brief interruption there. But that's my breakdown of the video, and video 1 and video 2, the summary of the video, and my personal thoughts in the video. Thank you.